She placed an advertisement in the newspaper. It read simply, "Wanted, a good home for a healthy infant. Premium paid, discretion assured." In Victorian Britain, this was not unusual. It was not even suspicious. Advertisements exactly like this appeared in newspapers across England every single week. In the Morning Post, in Lloyd's Weekly, in the classified columns of local papers from London to Bristol to Leeds. The women who placed them were called baby farmers, and for nearly 50 years they operated in plain sight, taking unwanted infants from desperate mothers, collecting a fee, and then doing whatever they wished with the children. Some of those children survived. Many did not. This is one of the most disturbing chapters in Victorian history, and it begins not with monsters, but with a social system so cruel to its most vulnerable that it manufactured monsters by necessity. To understand baby farming, you have to understand what it meant to be an unmarried mother in Victorian Britain. Victorian society organized itself around one overwhelming moral imperative: respectability. To be respectable was to be employable, to be marriageable, to have a place in the social order. To lose respectability was to fall outside of it entirely, and once outside, there was almost no way back. For a woman, respectability depended almost entirely on sexual purity. A married woman who had children was fulfilling her social role. An unmarried woman had a child, had committed what Victorian society considered a moral catastrophe. She could not keep her position in domestic service, the largest employer of women in Britain. No respectable household would employ a woman known to have had an illegitimate child. She could not live in most boarding houses. She could not easily find new employment. She faced destitution. And the child, the illegitimate child, faced something potentially worse. Under the bastardy laws, an illegitimate child had no legal father, no inheritance rights, no claim on any man's estate or income. The Poor Law of 1834 had made things even more brutal. It specifically removed the legal obligation of fathers to support illegitimate children, placing the entire burden on the mother, the very person society had already stripped of her ability to support herself. The Victorian state had constructed a perfect trap. It punished women for having illegitimate children. It gave those women no financial support. It gave the children no legal protection. And it offered one official alternative: the workhouse, the most feared and stigmatized institution in Victorian Britain, where families were separated on entry and where death rates among infants were catastrophic. Into this trap stepped the baby farmer. The transaction was simple: a desperate woman, a domestic servant who had been seduced by her employer, a factory worker abandoned by a man who had promised marriage, a widow who could not afford another mouth to feed, would pay a sum of money to a woman who agreed to take her child permanently. The fee varied: a full premium, meaning a one-time payment with no further obligation, typically ranged from £3 to £5, sometimes more. This was substantial money. For a domestic servant earning perhaps £15 a year, it could represent months of savings. What happened to the child after that depended entirely on the conscience of the woman who had taken it. The honest baby farmers, and they existed, genuinely placed children with adoptive families, or raised them themselves, or found them positions as they grew older. Some ran what were essentially informal orphanages, providing basic care in exchange for weekly payments from mothers who hoped to one day reclaim their children. But the economics of baby farming created an almost irresistible incentive towards something darker. A woman who took a child for a one-time premium had received all the money she would ever receive. The child now represented only ongoing cost: food, clothing, care, attention. The simplest way to maximize profit was to minimize that cost, and the simplest way to minimize that cost was to ensure the child did not survive very long. Systematic neglect, deliberate starvation. Laudanum, the opium-based medicine that was sold freely in Victorian pharmacies, administered in doses large enough to silence a child permanently.
The deaths were easy to conceal. Victorian infant mortality was genuinely terrible. In the slum districts of London and other industrial cities, 1 in 3 children died before their 5th birthday. A baby farmer who lost a child could simply report that it had died naturally. No one was particularly surprised. No one was particularly inclined to investigate. The most notorious baby farmer in Victorian history was a woman named Amelia Dyer. She operated across England for over 20 years, in Bristol, in Reading, in London, placing advertisements, collecting premiums, and then disposing of the infants she had taken. Dyer had developed a method. She would take in the infant, collect the fee, and then within days or weeks, strangle the child with a length of white edging tape. She would wrap the body in a parcel, weighed down with a brick, and drop it into the River Thames. She was investigated and suspected multiple times. She served a period in prison for neglect, not murder, in the 1870s. She was released, resumed her practice, and continued for another 2 decades. In 1896, a Thames bargeman noticed a brown paper parcel floating near the river at Reading. Inside was the body of a baby girl, strangled with white tape. The police trace led to Amelia Dyer. What followed was one of the most disturbing investigations in Victorian criminal history. Police searched the Thames near Dyer's former residences. Over a period of weeks, they recovered the bodies of 7 infants, all strangled, all wrapped, all disposed of in the same way. Investigators believed the true number of Dyer's victims was far higher. She had operated for over 20 years. Contemporary estimates, based on the number of advertisements she had placed, the number of mothers who came forward, and the sheer span of her activity, suggested she may have killed over 400 children. Amelia Dyer was tried for murder, convicted, and hanged at Newgate Prison in June 1896. She was 60 years old. Her case forced Parliament to confront what it had studiously avoided, the reality of what happened to the children that Victorian society's moral code made unwanted. The Infant Life Protection Act of 1872 had already required anyone caring for 2 or more infants under 1 year of age for payment to register with local authorities. It had made almost no difference. The registration requirements were poorly enforced. Single infants, the majority of baby farming cases, were entirely unaffected. After Dyer's execution, Parliament passed the Infant Life Protection Act of 1897, which tightened registration requirements and extended oversight to children up to 5 years of age. Local authorities were given more explicit powers of inspection, but the root causes remained untouched. The social stigma of illegitimacy remained. The economic destitution of unmarried mothers remained. The absence of any state support for women in these circumstances remained. The demand for baby farming, the desperate need of desperate women to make their children disappear, did not go away. It simply became slightly harder to supply. The women who paid the baby farmers were not, in most cases, cruel mothers. They were women who had been failed by every institution around them, by the men who had abandoned them, by employers who had discharged them, by a legal system that offered them nothing,
by a moral code that condemned them for circumstances that were rarely entirely within their control. They paid to make their children disappear because the society that had produced their situation gave them no other viable option. Victorian Britain built an empire on the idea of family values, of Christian morality, of the sanctity of the home. And in the back streets of its cities, it quietly outsourced the disposal of the children that its values had made inconvenient. If history's most uncomfortable truths matter to you, subscribe. Every week, we go deeper. Next week, the Victorian sewer workers who built London's underground in conditions that killed hundreds and whose names were never recorded. See you then.